Again, everyone, welcome back to episode 27 of the Drunk Friend podcast. As always, we're your host. I'm Trav of Nest Friend. That's Alex of SNES Drunk. Just a couple dudes talking about YouTube and whatever else, gaming, beer sometimes. Alex, how are things going over there? Once again, I want to say, been flipping through the old feed there. Not as much Metal Jesus this past week, but still no SNES Drunk.
Where's Metal Jesus? I'm more worried about Metal Jesus. Where is he? Is he gone? Did he disappear?
He said
I
he
need
would
my
come
hidden
back.
gems.
Where's
my hidden gems? I need the gems that are hidden. No, I'll be back on. This will post on Friday. I'll be back this coming Tuesday.
Woohoo.
I've already got that Tuesday video done. It's about overpowered 16-bit athletes in part 2, as they say in the Hot Shots universe, or in France, whichever comes first. So I'm just talking about more Bo Jackson, more Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball. Any excuse I get to talk about those two things, I'm going to take it. So yeah, that's what's going on with me.
It seems like you needed those things to get you excited about making a return, and most of us will be pretty happy to see you come back. So, cool. I'm glad you're back on the wagon. Did you feel like it was a good break? Do you feel recharged? Are you ahead of the game?
Mostly, I think I've got my other job busy season behind me. So now I have, and plus you need to get away from something in order to miss it. It's that, I think that's, not to get on my soapbox here, but I think that's one of those things about that makes the NFL even more popular than it has any right to be. And college football for that matter too, because it's only September through January and I guess February now. But every other sport goes on seemingly forever. Yeah. And it's like, how can I miss you if you don't go away? And it started to be like that for me, where it's like, how can I miss doing this if it's always here? So yeah, I started to miss it. So,
that's
but yeah,
good.
no, the last time I took a break, it wasn't a real break. I talked about this last time, but it wasn't a real break. It was just like me giving myself time to like build up my backlog again, and that didn't really work. So I've got a decent backlog now of videos so I can start working on some bigger projects.
That's cool. That's good to hear. My last video, I mean, I might as well have been taking a break. I was just playing Balloon Fight. There's nothing to it. It probably took me longer to make the video than it did. Has anyone ever played the game? But it's it's okay. It's okay. Actually, I had fun. It's an oddly addictive thing. And someone made a comment in the video. It's like, how is this not just? I mean, it's basically old school Flappy Bird. How is it not a portable or a mobile game? How's it not a thing? And I agree, it's just joust with balloons, but there is a mode that's kind of an endless runner that I had a hard time putting down. It's a lot of fun, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was hoping the game would be, I obviously know Balloon Fight, but if I were somebody going into this video without knowing what Balloon Fight was, I would have thought it was like just taking, like going to a birthday party and grabbing all the balloons,
right,
and just like pounding the bejesus out of somebody with balloons.
Man, and that's what I really want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be more fun.
I mean, that's a true balloon fight, right?
Yeah.
Or no.
I think so. And actually, I always make some. I hate writing descriptions on my YouTube videos. Absolutely hate them. And I probably don't do my channel any service by the ones that I do put there, because the only one I put for Balloon Fight was I got in a fight with a balloon once and I won by a lot. That was all I put for it. That was the description.
That works though.
Because I don't. I
mean, that's accurate.
Balloon Fight is a video game. Just watch the video. You don't need to describe it. I mean, and for the most part, to your point, most people probably already know what it is. Don't need my review. Don't care about a black box review. But it's my channel.
So it's your channel. Do whatever you want. Yeah.
Do what I want. I do what I want.
Do what I want. I do what I want.
Speaking of doing what I want, we talked last week about first-person RPGs on the NES, and I definitely talked down about all of them as a group. I said they're all shit, they're all ass, they're all shit-ass. You're just walking around in an 8-bit universe, and they're all bad and slow. But a good friend of mine who listens to this podcast was like, buddy, you got to check out Pool of Radiance and Ultima 4. I think they're a little better than what you're saying here.
Really? Ultima 4?
He's my boy Crabmaster. He says, and he's the one I have to listen to him because he loans me footage of games I don't want to put 1,000 hours into. He can give me some of those end game bits for the old highlight reel. And I gotta trust him. He's played 600 NES games and beaten them. So I'm like, okay, sorry.
Wow.
So yeah,
right on.
I take back what I said.
I never would have guessed. Yeah, okay, all right. Trav takes back what he said. I never would have guessed that that was a game worth playing on the NES, Ultima 4. How about that?
How about it? We'll see. I mean, maybe to him it is, maybe to me it isn't. We'll find out one day, I'm sure. Let's take it to there's no emails. You guys should email us at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com. That way we can read your emails out here on the show. So please send those in. Anything. You can even complain about us. We'll read your complaints out. You don't have to tweet them. How about that?
Yeah, please complain about us.
I love it. It's my favorite thing. Our first email here is, we're reading some more listener questions because we had a bigger pool of those. And first one here comes from Burger Champ, a prolific question asker here on the show. Thank you, Burger Champ. He asks, do you find that your YouTube assignment play dictates what you play for leisure, or vice versa, or are these not mutually exclusive?
They're not mutually exclusive for me, especially since I have access to modern stuff, and I don't really do any modern stuff videos. I don't have the means to do that. I played a bunch of Nier Automata over the summer. Right now, I'm plowing through both Metroid Samus Returns and Mario 3D. Was it 3D Land or 3D? I think 3D Land is the 3DS one, right?
I think so. Yeah,
I can't remember. Yeah, 3D Land. Yeah, is super fun. I'm through World 5 onto World 6. I'm a little annoyed that you have to get 50 of those coins to advance to the final castle because I've been ignoring those this whole time. But I had no problem going back and getting more. But yeah, no, I can play whatever I feel like playing. Like right now, for the Patreon, we're playing through the game of the month is Tecmo Super Bowl for the Sinestron Patreon, and we're just having fun with that, and just like, you know, whatever quirks come up, whatever weird stuff comes up. We had a fellow by the name of Greg that came up with this weird bug. I don't know how he was able to find this. That where every player on a kick return, I think it was just a kick return. I don't think it was every play. Maybe it was every play. But it was definitely on kick returns where the returner, whoever had the football, was able to freaking accelerate to like 999 miles an hour and sprint to the end zone like Usain Bolt. No problem. And so the final score for his games were like 89 to 75 or something like that.
Jeez.
And they just kept getting faster. He posted a video of it, and it was just like, how is that possible? And it's got to be some sort of bug. It was Tecmo Super Bowl 3 actually for the Super Nintendo, and I wasn't able to replicate the same thing he's talking about, but I'm eager to try.
Yeah,
because it looks hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
But plus it's football. It's football. NFL season just started, and I got NFL in the mind, so I like playing stuff like that. There's playoff baseballs coming up, so I want to play some Griffey. Yeah, so no, it doesn't. What I play from the channel is totally separate from what I play for fun. And that helps because I don't have kids.
I would say I do have kids. It doesn't really affect me a whole lot either because thankfully the output that I generate that revolves around games, if you take, we talked about Tales of the Lesser Medium. If you take that out, which I don't play games for that, but I still have to do a lot of research for it. But like for the Polykill podcast, I'm just getting on there to talk about games I'm playing, so I'm not restricted to play any certain game. So that's kind of the nice thing, is that I'm just generating content by being alive, which is pretty sweet. The Nest Friend channel, I mean, I like playing the NES stuff, and I don't have any restrictions. Unlike you, who you have to answer to your Patreon folk a lot of the time, I don't have that. So I do get to just kind of go on a whim and really just play whatever I want. And so far that's worked out. I've not, even the bad games, I sometimes don't mind to do it just because I wouldn't do it otherwise. The channel kind of says, okay, it's not great, but look at it and put your thoughts in order. And sometimes I'd come away thinking like, okay, it wasn't that bad, to be honest with you. I always heard it was terrible. So yeah, I think the assignment play, it dictates, nothing really. I get to do whatever I want, and it's nice. I would hate to be forced to play a game. I would hate that.
It's nice, even with the bad games, to just at least satiate your curiosity.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, that's what this game is. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and sometimes it's fun to find ways to make fun of the bad games, and those can be the funnier videos also done anyway. So
yeah, you get to go all Mystery Science Theater on them.
Right on.
So our next question is from Clumsy with a K. They ask, everybody knows good games that have aged badly. What are some quote-unquote bad games that have aged well? And he lists Dracula X as an example. And he's referring to the Dracula X Super Nintendo port of Rondo of Blood.
Right.
Which a lot of people slag on and say is obviously it's not as good as the TurboGrafx 16 version or the original Rondo of Blood. Nothing's going to touch that based on the, from the time. But this is a really hard question. I don't know what to pick for this, to be honest with you. Anytime I have a hard question, I always go towards sports games. But I can't do that here because sports games only age poorly, basically, unless it's like NBA Jam or Tecmo Super Bowl or something like that. But
yeah,
I don't know what else. What else is bad that would have aged well?
The only example I could shoehorn in here is not to say that the game is bad, but I think its appreciation has gotten better over the years. And I could maybe name two games that would fit that. One would be the second Legend of Zelda. I think that game has sort of been more loved over time. I think in its heyday, people didn't like it. It's not gotten really better or worse, in my opinion, over time, but I think people started to come around to it after a while, and I would say the same thing about Simon's Quest. I think it's gotten unfairly beaten up over the years, but it's always been a pretty solid entry. You showed as much in your review here not too long ago. So that would be the closest to an example I think I could give.
And those aren't even bad games.
Yeah, exactly.
To begin with.
Yeah, just the perception changed, but the game itself, they were always fine.
Yeah, those are two really good examples, though. Mine would probably have to be a game I was working on recently, Pilot Wing 64, and this is such a strange game to play today because it's three different things at once. It's number one, it was, I should say, way ahead of its time. That's very obvious. It was a launch title for the N64. It takes that feeling from Mario 64, where it's the initial feeling outside the castle, where it's like, wait, I can just like hang out here. I can do whatever I want. I can run around and do whatever. And it's like Pilot Wing 64 says, yes, you can. In this game, you can just fly around and just, you complete missions. You have unlimited continues and all that sort of stuff. And you just fly around this island, and there are modes you can unlock that do just that allow you to just hang out, which is awesome. I love that kind of stuff. But number two, the game has aged very poorly because it's an N64 game, and it there's the gray fog,
right.
There's the boxiness, there's all that sort of stuff. There's the blurriness, all that good stuff we're all used to hearing about when it comes to N64 games. But at the same time, the game is still worth playing today because it's still a chill playthrough. And those are becoming more and more in demand today because look at stuff like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley. Those games are super duper popular, and it's like there needs to be another Pilot Wings game, I think, for Switch or something like that, because I think it would fit right in with that stuff.
Yeah.
As long as they dial back the difficulty just a little bit, because that kind of takes the chill away from it.
Right.
Because Pilot Wing 64 is super tough, but that doesn't make it any less relaxing because you have unlimited continues and unlimited tries to do whatever. You can turn it off, and it's fine. If you fail, it's fine. It doesn't matter. You can try again as many times as you want. So yeah, that would be. Pilot Wing 64 it's not a bad game at all. It was never a bad game, but it's aged well in a weird way, in a way that I would not have expected.
Right. Like it didn't age as poorly as its peers in some regard.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Whereas try and play what is that Star Wars game called? It's not is it Shadows of the Legend? I got to Google
Shadows of the
now.
Empire maybe?
Shadows of the Empire, that's what it is. Yeah, Shadows of the Legend. What is that?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. No, Shadows of the Empire. You run around third person, and everything is so drab and so boring, and it's just not good. And everybody is like a million miles apart, and the aiming is terrible. The controls are not good, and it's just a big pile of bleh. And no thanks. I just don't like it. I don't like games like that. It's aged really, really, really poorly. No offense to any of the... I mean, okay, plenty of offense. I wouldn't mean my opinion if I didn't mean offense. So please take offense if you like that game.
But I'll be offended for you. Wow, I can't believe you said that. No, I think that's fair. I mean, a lot of the games from what you have dubbed 3D puberty just don't cut it these days, and that's to be expected. All right. Well, coming up next, we have Brian and Jim from Drink a Beer and Play a Game.
Yeah, we're doing a home and home, as they say in college football, since I was just on their podcast. They started out with a YouTube channel back in 2013 where the two of them reviewed games, often making sure to mention what beer goes well with which game, which is a pretty cool touch.
It is, and like you said, it's kind of funny. They started their YouTube channel roughly, just a couple weeks before you kicked it off. So these guys are seasoned veterans. They've been at it for a very long time, and they started their Drink a Beer and Play a Game podcast, the Power Hour, back in 2016, and have since cranked out 80 episodes and are still going strong today. So stick around for Drink a Beer and Play a Game's Brian and Jim. All right, we are happy to have our guests here today. Of course, we have Jim and Brian from Drink a Beer and Play a Game. And just so that the audience can tell your voices apart, I'll ask each of you a question right off the bat here. Brian, what are you drinking?
Today, I am drinking the Lancaster Kolsch, a German-style Kolsch ale. It's local to us here in PA, and it's only about 5%, so it goes down easy, so I'll go through a couple of them.
Wow. Good deal. And Jim, what about you? What are you drinking? And welcome.
Oh, hello. Thanks for having me. And I am drinking the Omnipolo Hypnopoma. It is a imperial stout brewed with marshmallows and Madagascan vanilla beans. And it comes in at 11%. So
wow.
This will
Holy
do me
crap.
pretty good. This is a good way to start.
That's a good way to start. Yeah, that'll get you nice and cozy.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you guys are practiced at listing off what beer you're drinking. That's very good. I usually fumble over that. I'm like, I'm drinking a brown thing. It's in a bottle. It's it's cold. So that was very good. You guys are very practiced at it.
It says the silver bullet on the side.
Yeah.
Here.
The mountains are blue now.
Yeah, I'm just
Comes
reading
from
my koozie.
Colorado?
But no, that's cool. So I guess we'll jump right into it. Obviously, Alex is very familiar with you guys and your podcast and your YouTube channel. But maybe briefly for the folks listening that aren't as familiar, what all do you guys put out there into the internet? I know you have podcasts, you have videos, but how would you summarize what you do?
Yeah, so the easiest way would be when we review games, and part of our game reviews is, on top of just talking about the actual game itself, is we pair a game with beers. Kind of like you just get beer pairings with food, and we make it specific for a game. We're saying, hey, if you want to play Resident Evil, it'd be a good idea to drink a stout that's a little bit darker, or something to that nature. And then on top of that, we do some top 10s and our weekly podcast. In between, we'll throw some random videos. They might be more beer heavy, or they might just be something specific about gaming. But I'd say our general format is just the reviews, the podcast, and top 10s.
Right on. So, how did you guys meet, and how did you decide on starting the YouTube channel?
Oh, Jim, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, so met by chance, basically. We met at college. It was actually before the first day. They had Brian and I were both commuters, so we were poor schmucks. We weren't going to be the ones living on campus, so they wanted to have a day together for all the kids taking the train to get to meet each other, try to make friends that way. So we just kind of randomly sat at the same table, and from there, it was through a couple mutual friends. And then we found out we went to the same high school, but we didn't know each other back then. And now we're brothers-in-law, so, that's how that works out.
Oh, holy crap. I didn't know that. Damn. So that eventually said, like, hey, let's start this YouTube thing. Was there anybody you looked at and said, like, hey, this person's doing this on YouTube, we can do that too, or anything like that?
Yeah, Jim and I were both huge into just, this is, you figure, 2012 timeline.
It's 2013. I think your first vid was August 2013, which is funny because that's like a couple weeks before my first video.
Exactly, yeah. But in 2012 is like Jim and I, we were really big into like watching pretty much all the most popular, probably Angry Video Game Nerd being the most popular at the time. And I just liked the idea of video editing, but we also like saw a lot of reviewers that we just kind of thought, I'm not crazy about the way they're reviewing because they never seem to stay consistent with like, every game to them is a 10. And are these games really 10 or is this game really as bad as they're saying? So, in our infinite wisdom, we're like, oh, well, we could probably get a more easier way to review. And the beer thing was just more or less, hey, this is a guaranteed excuse for us to get together once a week, drink some beers, play them together. And the beer thing really evolved into the whole pairing it. Before it was just, here's what beers we were drinking while we were finishing this game.
Right.
And then it evolved into the pairing.
That's such a good idea for a channel. It really is. It's a good way to make it interactive and have the audience kind of play along, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to fuse two hobbies too. Like you can drink a beer and play a game, but if your hobby is like, I don't know, like shooting skeet and playing video games, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to cross those over into a YouTube channel. So I think it's a pretty smart move to I don't know what shooting skeet is. It's honestly the only thing that came to me in that moment.
You've been playing Duck Hunt lately or something? Like where did that come from?
We can edit it out. It's perfectly fine with me. But the it is kind of neat that you can come together on those things, and they're very wide and expansive hobbies. Everybody likes, well, most people like beer and video games, but you pair it in such a unique way that I think it really does make for a really good, entertaining YouTube channel and an informative YouTube channel at that.
Thank you,
yeah,
guys.
And it totally,
that's really nice.
Yeah, and it totally wasn't just a way for us to get together once a week away from the girlfriends to get smashed. Totally wasn't that.
Totally. Obviously. We got to make that clear for all the listeners. So was the podcast just more of like a free-form extension of the YouTube channel? It was like, or was it a second excuse to get together and drink more beer?
It was pretty much just the kind of thing where it was like a lot of the other shows, like the CU podcast, where all these different topics would come up. That's like, we want to talk about this, but how the hell do we make a video out of it that would be,
okay,
worth sitting down and doing that way? So I was like, well, let's just make a podcast. Everyone else is, so why not?
Yeah, and part of the podcast was also, Jim handles our Twitter and getting more and more people interacting with us. It was like, instead of just having him answer it, and half his answers on Twitter were terrible, I'm like, we should probably do a podcast where we talk about this out loud, about if people are saying that, what's your favorite game, or what's this, or what's a beer that goes well with this. So it was just an additional excuse to get those kinds of things out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and in addition to, we were talking about how I guess videos came first, then podcasting, but your YouTube channel is actually pretty impressive. I know we've talked about it's been around for a long time, but you have almost 900 videos on that thing. And I know they're not all reviews. You got your podcast on there and different hardware reviews even, and just random stuff. So it seems like you've tried a lot of different things. Is there anything, I guess I'll ask two questions here. Are there any any attempts that you've made within YouTube, because YouTube is always this thing that people try to throw things to the wall to see if they stick. What's one thing that, I'm not going to say regret, but what's one thing you're like, man, I wish we hadn't made that video or wasted our time on that, that idea. And then the other side of that is, what's something you're really proud of that you've done that you've not done in a while, maybe you'd like to go back to on the channel?
So I think something that we probably spent too much time on, we tried a few of these like things called beer battles, and it was really one that was the better. It was an idea just to try to bring like kind of like a comedic role to like the whole which beer is better. And if you're from PA, there's like two famous Christmas beers. So we did a whole skit basically as the beer bottles, like with like, I don't want to call it stop motion, but just moving the bottles and talking. And it was actually
Like Bud Bowl.
Exactly.
Yep.
It was really
Yeah.
fun to make. And we enjoyed like actually, because we don't script anything else. Like it was kind of fun sitting there doing the script, but it was one of those ones where like the amount of effort put into it and the just lack of like, it seemed general interest. It was like, okay, that's something we're probably not going to do again. But like we had thought of other ideas to do. We just never got around to doing it.
Which beer ended up winning?
The Mad Elf. I don't know if you're familiar with Trogs in our area.
I'm not, but I just want to make sure I get the right Christmas beer this coming Christmas. If I'm able to find it, I don't want some loser like that loses the PA Christmas beer bowl. I want the winner.
Yeah. And one other thing that was funny is, when we first started, as you said, we have about 900 videos, and I don't know the exact count off the top of my head of what were reviews, but when we first started, we were trying to pump out at a minimum one review a week, but a few times we went super crazy when we had the time and did like 30 days of every Simpsons game. And it was every single day we released a review. And that was like, I look back at that and I'm like, okay, that was like, it was good. We did it and we committed to it, but dear God, the amount of time spent on that
Yeah, why
month
did we
was-
do that? Why do we do that to ourselves?
And we tend to do that sometimes. We theme months. So, like, we did every Mortal Kombat game. Or last year it was, like, Resident Evil. And the timeline, we were like, we're never committing to just every single day in a month doing a video. Because that's crazy. So that's something we will never do and probably not recommend unless you're someone who has the ample amount of time.
Yeah, no kids.
Yeah.
Unless your kids have 4 legs and are covered in fur.
Or if they know how to video edit.
Yeah, you can put them to work. That's why people have kids, right? So they
Damn
can
right.
mow the lawn one day. But yeah, right, Trav?
Yeah.
Talking about that lawn again, right?
Yeah, at that rate, you could just get a goat.
You guys also integrate like a beer requirement in some of your reviews on YouTube. And I really enjoy that personally. It makes me laugh mostly because it's thrown in so casually. Like, this took me a couple beers to get through this, like, to make it more palatable. Do you guys know? Are there any games that come to mind of what game has required the most beer because it's bad?
I mean, Superman 64, I think, was up there. We've had
Wayne
some bad
Gretzky's
ones.
hockey was up there.
For N64?
The NES version.
The NES version.
NES version. Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's like a port of a Amiga game or something like that, and yeah, it's almost damn near unplayable.
Wow.
That is a good question, though, because that is one of the most asked things. Is it'll be whatever
what
about
does it
the
mean?
review. Yeah, what does it mean? And what we try to say is during the video, if we're talking about a beer requirement, we just say, hey, either it's just like having a good time when you're out with your buddies. A beer could be something for, hey, this is a really good time. I'm going to keep drinking and keep the good times going. Or I'm having a terrible time and I need this to get through it. And we try to make it specific to the game. If the game is bad, we generally say you're going to need, bigger beer goggles to get through it. But if it's good, we might say, kudos to the graphics in this game. This deserves a celebratory beer. And we'll just throw it in
Sure.
like that. But yeah, the amount of people, they're like, so this game needs 8 beers. Are you telling me I can't enjoy it if I have 8 beers? And we just say, don't take it too serious.
Yeah. It's not letter of the law. It's spirit of the law. And that answers the second part of my question, which was going to be what game requires the most beer because it's fun to play with other people. So the beer requirement covers all bases basically. It's to put it in simple terms, like it's both. It can be to describe something where you need to as much alcohol as possible to get through, say, Bart's Nightmare for Super Nintendo, or maybe it's something you can have a couple beers with your friend, or like 3 or 4 beers in my case, playing the Simpsons arcade game, which is one of my picks for the best Simpsons game ever.
Yeah, no, that is
That was
very
up there
true.
on our list.
And goddamn Bart's Nightmare. We actually made a drinking game out of the dinosaur level in that because of how annoying
God.
it was.
That took so long for me just to get like usable footage for the video that I made. I hate that game. And every once in a while, like I'll see somebody somewhere, like on Twitter, somebody will retweet something, or maybe I'll see something somewhere that's like, anybody remember Bart's Nightmare? And I see the replies, and it's like, yeah, it was great, childhood, blah blah blah. And I'm like, what the hell game did you guys play? Because this game is freaking awful. So
It had to be that one game. It was one game syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, well, my parents got this for me, and the only other game I had was Bill Lambier Combat Basketball. So, and that's a pile of crap. So,
Yeah, that game is friggin'. It's awful. That definitely required some good amount of beer.
I actually have some breaking news. I don't know if I should say it though, but okay. So there's this fellow online. He's got a Patreon. His name is Baron von Lecter, and he's a guy that he's going to be kind of mentioned in my next video because I got the roster update for Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball for 2020. And it's really good. It's really awesome. It's a lot of fun playing with the modern players and like the refitted sprites and all that stuff. He is working on a new version of Bill Lambier's Combat Basketball where you play as brands. Like the teams are like Google
nice.
and Yahoo and stuff like that, and Microsoft. And he's going to try and make it a good game, in other words. And I'm like, Godspeed, my friend.
Dude, that is yeoman's work right there.
I know, right? Like he's earning his Patreon money with that. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there because I thought that was an interesting tidbit that I had learned.
That's really cool. Just don't play as the Phillies in Ken Griffey this year. We probably won't have a fun time with that.
Are they even gonna make the playoffs this year?
No.
They're not.
No, unless we're up by about 15 runs, the bullpen comes in and it just all goes to hell every
And
time.
Heathcliff Slocumb comes in and blows the game. That's the only Phillies reliever I can name from back in like 1998.
Slocumb. God, not even Jose Mesa or Joe Table or anything like that.
Joe Table or Mitch Williams is another one. Who else did they have?
The classic choke.
I know they had J.C. Romero for a while because he was with the Twins for a long time, and I thought he was awesome, and they were stupid to dump him. But yeah, Heathcliff Slocumb is my guy.
Yeah, Romero was on the World Series team, and then like 2 years later, he got hit with the doping scandal, and then he never played again. So we got our one good year out of him.
Oh my god, I didn't even know that. Okay, good. Dropping some names here, and you guys are picking them up.
I have our phases. I'm a total front runner.
That's the only time Heathcliff Slocumb's name has been uttered, even in his family. They don't even call him that. That's the first time that name has been said in easily 20 years.
Did we have this one uncle? No, we didn't.
It also sounds like a cat from Louisiana, Heathcliff Slocumb. Anyway, back to I guess video games and beer. Trying to figure out a way to segue here. I wasn't really prepared to have to segue from old Phillies closers.
Phillies relievers? Come
Yeah,
on. You got to be prepared for anything.
I wasn't. Alex, you threw me a curveball there. There's another pun.
Whoa, there we go.
So your channel covers just about everything under the sun. We've kind of talked about it. You've even had Beer Fight, which is pretty crazy. You've gotten to there. Is there anything that regarding like news or hardware reviews or anything you won't cover? Is there any place within gaming you won't go?
I think the one thing Jim and I try to stay away from, and sometimes we'll cover it, but if there's any of that stupid shit drama, like between YouTube gamers or anyone on a social, like if it's a big story and it's related directly to a game, we may talk about it on the podcast, but we don't really ever want to get into that zone of talking about drama between streamers or this or that. Like that stuff has no interest for us.
Good.
Yeah, we're typically not the we're not the take sides kind of people with a lot of internet fights because it's like I don't really care that much. I don't know any of these people in real life, so why get invested?
And there's already enough of that stuff out there anyway.
Yeah, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, like on the gaming end, there really isn't nothing we won't cover, especially with me because I'm at that phase right now where I'm really interested in the weird shit. And wait, can I curse on the show? Or...
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course.
Fuck yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I crossed that.
That's always a who joked about that? Was it Josh?
I think it was Daria.
That said, oh, was it? No, Daria retweeted it,
Oh,
but I
right.
think it was initially Josh
Yeah.
that said like, "Here's every podcast ever." It's like. And then there's this shit that happened. Oh shit! Can I swear on this podcast? And the hosts are like, "Oh fuck yeah!" And then everybody's like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah, every
God,
time.
that's so true.
He's going to enjoy hearing this exact script, basically. Yeah.
But yeah, at this point, like I'm more into weird crap than I am like anything normal. Like today we're recording this on the 16th, and they just had like the big PS5 presser, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And right now I'm playing through this little Genesis plug and play from 2004, and I'm like, man, this thing's awesome. It's got Street Fighter on it.
So, I wanted to go back real quick. I confess that I have not seen every episode you guys did, but have the two of you, Jim and Brian, have had a bigger disagreement than you did on Parappa the Rapper? Because I know Jim really liked it, but Brian absolutely did not dig it at all. And I thought that made for a really entertaining episode. Can you think of a bigger disagreement that you would have had?
I'm trying.
Anybody listening, go check that episode out on their channel because it's pretty funny.
So Parappa, what really drove Parappa was the fact that we had we had people vote on what they wanted, and randomly we've seen requests like people love to try and torture us like with LJN games or this or that, and randomly people start writing Parappa, and I was like, why? But then I ended up getting Parappa 2 and Lama Jammy, which I was just like, okay, after you play one of those games, you don't need to play any more unless you're super into those like rhythm-based games. And Jim, as he said, he's into weird shit. So part of it, and Jim, you correct me if I'm wrong, but part of it is you love to just to kind of get me mad and make it seem like something's better than it really is. But like other than that, like we might disagree. I bust his balls about his Sega love because he's one of these blasphemous bastards who tries to claim it's better than the Super NES. But I don't think there's many games we've had a hard disagreement. I'm trying to.
I got one for you. Typing of the Dead.
Oh, fuck that game.
Masterpiece of a game.
So Jim, like you said, you'd have to know the history of Jim. Jim was, he was a typing expert because he had to be, and things like that. And I get the gimmick of the game, and as an educational tool, I was saying it's an interesting game. But Jim's ranking it as in his top 10 favorite games, and I'm like, that is ridiculous. You're gonna tell me you'd have more fun using a goddamn keyboard than a light gun? And he would argue, yeah.
Hey, perfect control scheme. You can't screw it up.
It's not perfect. It's
self-aware.
Typing.
They're wearing Dreamcast and batteries, Brian. They are wearing Dreamcast and batteries.
But it was really, even that game, I mean, we'll agree on 90%, the graphics, sound, some of those things are just undeniable, but the gameplay, I was like, yeah, I don't want to spend my time just typing. And he is, as he said, he self-admitted, he's a weirdo that would want to do that. So, we all dance to a different tune, I guess.
Brian just hated that I thought that I like Parappa so much because it's cute and catchy.
Yeah.
Brian doesn't like cute things.
I have to tip my hat to Alex here because he definitely brought you guys on to Sally, Jesse, Raphael, the situation to tear you guys apart so that we can be the podcast associated with drinking and playing video games and get you guys out of the way of stardom here. But I can empathize with Jim a little bit. I don't know if I would rank these games top 10 for me, but I do fancy the weird shit. I like getting my hands on consoles nobody liked. I love my 3DO. I don't think I like any of the games for it, but I like that I have a 3DO. I like that I have the whatever that was and the redheaded stepchild of that generation, because there's so much in there no one talks about, and I think it's cool that your channels like yours will actually go at it. You might cover a 3DO game, or you might at least talk about it on the podcast, and even though they're not popular and that's not a lot of clicks, I appreciate it because like Jim, I like that weird shit.
But
Yeah,
can
we've
you
got-
at least admit, Trav, if you like something weird, I'm cool with people liking weird stuff, but will you be honest and be like, yeah, it's weird and it's not good, but I still like it? Versus Jim will say, oh no, it's really good too. Like, he won't ever just admit if it's bad and that he just likes something bad. He'll still fight that it's good no matter what.
It might depend on what it is, honestly, because I have my beliefs and my firm roots on some opinions, but when it comes to typing of the dead, I like it because I'm good at it. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody who doesn't like typing.
Exactly.
They have to learn.
No, they don't.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You want to beat the game? Learn to type.
Yeah.
What's this about? Get good? Oh, I have a game for you. And then you just chuck a keyboard at their head. But actually, would call it a 3DO is like one of those white whales that I would love to find at a Goodwill. Because speaking of weird shit, that's where I found my CDI, so that's why I have one. Like, they must have thought it was like a bargain bin like DVD player, so they only had it for like $8. And I'm like checking eBay, checking all the like forum sites. I'm like, holy shit, this is a CDI. I was like, there's no way this works, and I brought it home, and then I bought a game for it just so I could test it out, and it wound up working. So yeah, now
that's
I'm
cool.
proud. Is proud the word? Yeah, proud owner.
Jim, give me the weirdest game that you like. Is it Typing of the Dead, or is there anything weirder you can think of?
Oh, boy.
Let's see here. Weirder than Typing of the Dead. I mean, there's Strip Fighter 2. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know. There's like Gamola Speed on the PC Engine. That's like a weird kind of like you combine Snake with like room-to-room puzzle solving. Shit, I have a lot of weird crap. I have a Japanese-only train simulator for the N64. Denshin to go.
So
I
what
have
about
a
all
lot
your
of weird
hentai
crap.
stuff on the Switch?
Why don't I have one hentai game on the Switch? Waifu Uncovered. It's nice for a waste of 10 minutes.
See, you can't just say it's a bad game. He's just got to say it's good.
Look, it's got its uses. What can I say? It's not a complete waste of $6, but yeah, I mean, probably besides any of the CDI stuff that like randomly got ported, or I mean, like having Rise of the Robots with like the real Brian May soundtrack to it, like that's one of those things. That's like, oh yeah, this is a showpiece for the collection.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I start listening to Resurrection too many times, and I'm the only person in the world who sings that song's praises. Yeah, I go down weird rabbit holes left and right.
Nice. I like it. That's funny. So besides the pairing with beer with games and that sort of thing, one thing you guys do really well with your reviews is that you actually sound like you're talking like normal people instead of reading off of a script. Is that by design? Do you guys script things out? Do you have notes you go by? How do the voiceovers work for you guys, where you're able to get them to sound the way that they do?
So it, like I think we had talked about it, Alex, with you on our podcast. It was by me, so I'll take all the blame for how stupid we were. Before, I thought it would be a really good idea to pre-record our thoughts on a game and then, to edit all the video clips we wanted in a game and then try to record our voice to that. It was terrible exercise. We'd be rushing. Jim and I, we never had mic time before, so he has lots of pregnant pauses or in-betweens, and I talk too fast. So getting our timing down was all over the place. It was that was a nightmare. And then I never wanted to be someone who like fully scripted something. Like I wanted us to just let it kind of flow, and usually, especially when we would always get together, we would be drinking while we're doing it. So some of the reviews would definitely be a little like, maybe we would have said something a little different here or said it a little differently. But other than that, it's really just we go. Every so often we'll just say like, do you think that sounds okay? And 90% of the time it's like, yeah, I'm sure that's fine. Because, it's like we did want it to be we want it to be unscripted. We're not professional by any stretch of the imagination. We're not experts by any stretch. And we're not trying to portray that. We want it to be like if two buddies got together and just wanted to share their opinions over some beers, this is kind of what it would sound like.
And I got to give Brian a lot of credit too, because when I started doing videos on my own, like for some of the more random hardware reviews or a random top 10 list, like I'd be going back through the audio and scraping through it with, like he says, my pregnant pauses and my awful transitions with my ands and my so's. And I was like, oh my God, I do this to Brian every episode? I'm a friggin' dick. So actually, for some of my solo videos, I'll script a few things just so I can save myself a few hours of editing. But yeah, Brian does the heavy lifting there.
Sound familiar, Trav? Oh, I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, when I edit you, yeah, it does kind of actually.
Yes, that's kind of what I was getting at.
No, it's all good.
I'm a bitch to edit when it comes to podcasts because I tend to ramble and yeah, it gets bad. I have to be somewhat scripted because otherwise I just fall all over myself. I don't know what I'm saying. I lose my train of thought. I go off talking about solitaire or something weird or I don't know what I'm saying, and then I'm like, how did I get here? Oh, yeah, and it really does boil down to making you feel like you're being spoken to rather than making you feel like you're being talked at. Because there are certain channels out there that are so professional and so well done, and they have this like newscaster tone to them, where it's like I'm being read the news, as I'm sitting there reading my paper and smoking my pipe or something, like it's 1950, like they're Walter Cronkite or something. And it's like, you can't do that. Like I think one of the reasons SNES Drunk actually ended up working by some weird miracle is that I wanted it to sound like some guy sitting next to you that's like, hey, here's this game, here's what you do, here's how many lives you got, here's what this is, here's what that is. This part kind of sucks. This part's pretty cool. And the music's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And I always made sure to try and make it sound like it's conversational instead of I always say this, but reading the right column on Wikipedia, it's like, oh God, I can just go to that damn site myself and read that shit myself. I don't care who published the game or what exact date it came out. Like, I can go find that myself. I want to see footage of it. I want to learn something about it, and I want to get some insight about the game. And I think you guys do a really good job of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would have shocked me to hear that you script anything. I mean, you make it sound so casual.
Oh, thanks.
And you definitely you sound completely unscripted. Like, to me, the most I would have thought you scripted is maybe like you have bullet points somewhere where you're like, oh, I just want to mention this, that, or this. Like, it's you sound very much like. You're someone who really knows the game well. You played through it, and you're giving, like you said, the highlights of things you like and didn't like. And yeah, I mean, you definitely it goes without saying that you hit the nail on the head with your reviews.
Thanks. Any compliments from you, Jim?
Yeah, you're pretty good.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, if you like that kind of thing, I guess you're all right.
if you're into that.
But no, I mean, I will say, after having done a couple shows with you, like, it's not that big of a leap between your content and like what you do in the podcast as you talk to a person and what you put out there. And I like to think that we kind of try to do the same thing.
You guys definitely do, for sure. There's hardly any leap at all in my mind. So, and I think that goes a long way because, again, I don't want someone reading to me like it's the freaking local news because, yeah, nobody wants that.
Yeah, but you make a good point too, because I think there was an era of YouTube, and it's probably still going, but people wanted to emulate professionalism. That's what we had always seen as a newscaster or something, or IGN or G4, and people tried to replicate that with their own tools and methods. But really, I think what you found is de-evolving that and just being the guy on the couch and just saying, hey man, this is this game, this is the way it looks, this is the way it plays, was actually a better thing. It's like an evolution but a de-evolution at the same time. It's like, just pare it down, make it simple, and deliver it in a way that's very easily digestible, and it ends up being a better product, at least for a lot of people. I prefer that. So I think that's it's just sort of like the next step is to get away from trying so hard to be super professional and being the weatherman when it comes to telling somebody about the games, and really just focusing in.
No. It's every game's got to be a hidden gem. Oh. That's the point of YouTube. Is it's hidden gems.
And
that's
don't forget,
point.
You got to do the YouTube face in your thumbnail, the shocker.
Oh yeah, you got.
God.
You got to make a.
I did that one
Go
time
ahead.
with one of my hardware reviews, and Brian saw it and went, "Jim, what the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing a little experiment for the page. Yeah, I want to see, try it like this way."
No, Alex, I
like,
did have one question for you. So,
For me?
yeah,
Okay.
so one thing we noticed is like what we said with the casualness. Was there any thoughts of you when you were starting this that you wanted to avoid being a character of any type? Because that was one thing, like we said, there was plenty of people, and we love the Angry Video Game Nerd, but I said it would be so exhausting to have to play a character to do these reviews. So we always wanted to be like, let our true thoughts shine through and not try and amplify it with extra anger or with a motive behind who we are presenting it. Like, did you ever consider not doing it this way and doing it with a character, or was it always just let me do it the way I'm doing it?
Never ever considered a character, and I was gonna bring that up about you guys, is that you guys are just two regular dudes, which I think there needs to be more of that with not just retro gaming, but with like content and reviews and stuff like that. It's just there's none of this character nonsense, because I think the market is the market. But I'm rolling my eyes as I say that. But there's already too much of that, and there's already too much of that that's not all that well done. So it's a hard thing to do right, and I have zero confidence that I would be able to do that right anyway. But no, I had no interest in doing that because, like you said, there are already a million AVGN ripoffs at that point. And I thought, in fact, that was the reason why I wanted to do stuff the way I wanted to do it. It's because, I tell this story all the time, but I remember looking for footage of, I wanted to know if a certain game was good, and all I could find on it was like some guy pointing his webcam at his TV, and it was like 12 minutes long, and he's just droning. Like, here's this fighter, and he's got this move and this move, and then he does this if you do this button combo. I'm like, this does not help me. Like, I can't even focus the damn camera first. But I wanted to do something other than that wasn't a character, but was still more informative. Kind of like how Siskel and Ebert was with movies, not necessarily with their opinions, but with just their format. Like, hey, here's this movie that's in theaters now. Here's clips of it. Here's what we think of it. Okay, next movie. And it was like 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Why isn't there something for like games now for that? Like, why can't somebody do that now? I guess, why does I'm trying to think of people that do that. And every review I see of like every new game is like freaking 2 hours long. And it's like... Use your technical writing skills, people. Come on, like, let's shorten it up here. But yeah, no, thanks for saying that. But no, it's I've never wanted to be a character, and I appreciate you guys for what you do, because you guys are just very obviously, and you can tell making the leap from the YouTube channel to the podcast, like you're just two guys playing games.
No, thank you. We appreciate that, bud.
Yeah, for sure. And even then, we're trying to get Brian does it for the most part, but trying to get into Twitch streaming too. Just because, especially like during COVID and stuff like that, we weren't going to be going out of our way to, for lack of a better term, to be around each other. So we're like, oh, we got to supplement this some other way. So that's when like the podcast became weekly, and when Brian really started dipping his toes into Twitch and stuff like that. And when I would make more of my like on the side videos, like a random top 10 or some random ass hardware review, just it almost felt like for a little bit you get stuck in a rut sometimes with how you do stuff too. So it was almost like a nice forced change for the page, because we haven't been like it's never been like taking off like gangbusters anyway. So it's almost even evolved more into like the casual sense while still pumping out at least 1 or 2 videos a week.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That is interesting to me because, again, you have a large library of videos and a history that dates pretty far back. I guess maybe this question is deserves more of a pre-COVID answer, but because you guys put out so much content, how often do you see each other?
Pre-COVID, it was definitely once a week. At a minimum, it was once a week. And what we would try to do is bang out like, we're gonna record a review of the game and get our podcast in at the same time. And sometimes It would just be like, how long is that time we're seeing each other? So, as Jim alluded to, having families and having kids, we have to be smart about how much time we can really spend with it. But, I think once things are starting to get back to normal, and it seems like they are, we'll probably get back to that format. The big thing is, like, we just didn't want to kill ourselves with trying to get too many reviews out. It's like we want to make sure we hit up games that either meet something we're trying to do, whether it be a theme, or we're currently looking at kind of a format where we give each other games that we want to play, and then we allow the other one to play for so much time, and then we're going to get together and just review it and talk through it.
Right. So it's not content for the sake of content. It's got to be meaningful and worth the time and effort. So that's good. I want to bring Sally, Jesse, Raphael back into this because you guys have worked together for so long and been obviously very close. Have there been some times where you're like, bro, I need like 2 weeks without you, and I'm going to make my own videos, and I need you to go play with your CDI and leave me alone?
If we ever needed time, it would probably just have been like, not so much, hey, we need time because I can't see you because we're annoyed. I think it was more like, hey, we just need time for family shit. It's usually that. We bust each other's balls, but it's never in true mean spirits. So, I mean, Jim is a son of a bitch, but yeah.
It is true. But I mean, it's all like, if we were going to have a special video, like we were doing it a little bit more before the pandemic hit again, but when we first started, we wanted to make drinking games out of video games. And those were videos that we put a shitload of effort into for minimal results, but we had a ton of fun doing it, but it was like an all-day thing. So
there's nothing like going through 16 beers in like a 2-hour game session, getting way too drunk, and then like, oh boy, I can't do anything today now.
Yeah, like we always had to plan a day or two after that of just like, oh, we have to do this on a Friday because our weekend will be shot. It'll be those kind of hangovers. We used to actually bring a breathalyzer to us to show during the course of it how much drunker we were getting too.
Oh, dang. Wow.
We committed to that bit.
Yeah.
But back to your question about needing time apart. Anytime we actually randomly would have time apart, and it wouldn't be on purpose because we are the kings of hardware failures. So anytime we'd be in a nice little spurt of doing things, Brian's the main editor for the page, and his rig would die. So it's like, oh, I guess we're down for a month. Well, I guess we'll see each other casually then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, that's good. It's good that it seems like you guys really do get along if you're able to work together and put out content together and do all this stuff and not face any ill effects, because it is just for fun, and I think it's easy sometimes to lose sight of that. I do have to ask, though, this is kind of a jokey question, because when people ask me to describe a beer I'm drinking, I don't have a lot of good adjectives, and I hear you guys talk about it, and you guys I'm like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good way to describe a beer. I'm always like, this one's cool, crisp, and refreshing, which says nothing. And I know you guys have harped on this in the past. Give me some adjectives. What are some good ways to describe a beer? How would you describe the beers you're drinking right now, without using cool, crisp, or refreshing, please?
Well, Jim's the king of cool. Just like Jim,
I'm that guy.
If Jim likes a video game, you can guarantee he's going to say it's charming, it's interesting, or it's cute. And that's what he says for his beers: cool, crisp, and refreshing. The thing is,
or he gets a job done. If it's just middle of the road, gets a job done.
It's one of those double-edged swords. When you get into anything and you see verbiage, like I'm one of those people, like, oh god, I hate when people use certain verbiage. But then you really get into it, and at this point, like, through my Untapped, I'm damn near at 1,000 unique beers I've tried, and I go out of my way to try as many as I can. And trying to describe what it is I'm tasting, I have to use the adjectives that you're used to. So, if you're drinking a stout, you're going to look for, does it have a coffee aroma? Is it dark? Is it toasty? If you're drinking more lagers that are malt forward, you're going to say, this tastes bready. And no one's going to know what the hell does bready mean until you have enough beers where you're like, oh yeah, it does kind of taste like bread. And then you just try to use as best as you can fruits or foods to describe the taste. But the mouthfeel is the one where people can get really anal about your opinion of how it like represents. It's almost like gamers to a degree. Like beer snobs can get friggin' crazy, and they're a group that we're not crazy about. But like, if God forbid you say this beer is like too dry, or it's too watery on the mouth, or when you're using those adjectives, it's just like, it's funny because to people who drink it a lot, you're gonna understand. But if you're someone who's never had an IPA and you have it for the first time, and I'm trying to describe the pininess and that the mouthfeel, leaves you with a little bit of a salivation, you're gonna be like, what are you talking about? It just tastes like beer. So yeah, there's tons of adjectives, and I've done extensive research for like projects we have coming up on this, and it really is amazing, man. Like I said, it's we picked two of the most niche things to get into with games and beer, and as you see on Twitter, neither one is a forgiving group when you talk badly about some of their favorite stuff. So, yeah.
I do have a word for this beer I'm drinking right now. Boozy, because my God.
My God, 11%.
Yeah.
You are in deep, my friend.
And it's not even because of the 11%. Like, I've had more higher alcohol beers, but it has that taste that it was like sitting in even a bourbon barrel or something like that as it was fermenting. So it's definitely got that kick to it. Woo!
Ooh.
Yeah.
And is it marshmallowy?
Not so much marshmallow, but the vanilla's a nice touch.
Vanilla's nice. Okay.
Very refreshing.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, let's get to some listener questions here. We got our friend Burger Champ, and he wants to know what game innovations or mechanics are guaranteed to draw you into a game when you're playing it for the first time, and conversely, what mechanics or cliches are a near instant turnoff. Anybody want to go first?
Ooh. You know what? I'll go first. Again, keeping it weird. If you take like an outside concept and mold it into a normal game, I'm always drawn to something like that. So if you take like a Sonic Spinball or a Final Lap Twin, which is like a racing game, but it's also an RPG where you battle with races, that kind of deal.
I'm right there with you on that. Yeah, I love creative stuff like that. What is the game I'm thinking of? There's a game on Super Nintendo called, Fire Striker. And it's a combination of Breakout, but it's a top-down Zelda-like game. So
right, I'm
it's
going on
kind of
eBay.
like it's kind of like pinball versus Zelda. Yeah, it's weird. It's I love crazy stuff like that. That's like, merging genres that shouldn't belong together.
Yeah, if it's like, it's hard to pull off right, but if they do pull it off, like, none of them are ever like top tier games because they don't focus enough, but it's always just something weird enough that like it keeps my interest even if it's like pretty bad.
For sure, yeah. My go-to is always ActRaiser, and I feel like we bring up ActRaiser
Great
every
choice.
friggin' podcast. But and Trav has been playing Dark Cloud 2 lately for PS2, and he could speak to that as well.
Yeah, I love that game, Dark Cloud 2, Dark Cloud, and even Soul Blazer is kind of a little bit like that, action platformy or action RPG and sort of town building meshed together, a fusion of genres. It's pretty cool.
Dark Cloud was always that game that I would see at a game store when I was trying to just buy a new game to play on PS2, and it was the game that I always look at and be like, oh, I should get around to this one. I always see it, and then I just pass over it. But it's always just one I was like, looking back, I'm like, that's one I should have played back then and gotten it when it was still like $3 and everywhere.
I think the Dark Cloud one is maybe it should be fairly affordable. It was a greatest hit, so it's ubiquitous, easy to get. So I would recommend it still.
Okay.
I think it holds up decent. I'll jump in here. I think I'm really, if you describe something as a Metroidvania, I will look at it pretty hard. I'll consider. I just like getting lost in those, and I think that's kind of a cliche, very broad answer. But if you describe anything if you described a beer as a Metroidvania, I'd probably be interested in it. So more so than if you said bready. But I also think a mechanic or cliche that's a near instant turnoff. I think anything that's purely multiplayer is something that I don't like as much, or something that I can't beat. I like finishing games, and if it's an endless game or like a persistent world or something like that, I know, one, it's probably going to be too addictive for me, and I'm not going to play anything else. And two, I need the catharsis of actually finishing something to enjoy it.
No, I'm right there with you. That's the reason I never really got deep into Minecraft or anything like that, because I need like an end goal and a point. Like, digging around and making my own little house and stuff like that, it's fun. Mm-hmm. But after a while, I just, like, I need a reason to be there still. It's actually part of the reason I kind of dropped off of Breath of the Wild. Like, it's really good, but I felt like after like 15 hours, I still accomplished like nothing. So I was like, I'm moving on.
Yeah, I would say for me, the thing that always it's a good turn on, and the best way to describe it would be a Bethesda style RPG where I know I'm gonna feel like I'm really in the game, but there is gonna be a good story and an end to that. Like that same idea of I don't want it to go on forever, but I want to be able to feel like I'm fully immersed in whatever world it is I'm playing in, and I want like as many customization options as possible. I don't like JRPGs, but like I said, I'm saying the Bethesda RPG because anything like Skyrim or Fallout games. But turnoffs, I mean, any stupid game that would make you use a keyboard as a main mechanic.
You son of a bitch.
Now, I would say a turnoff would be the multiplayer angle. Like, I don't like MOBAs or JRPGs or games of that nature. Like, I don't like the idea of you can't just sit and... It's one of the reasons why I'm a huge RTS fan, but I never could get into StarCraft because that game, to me, like, if you wanted to play by yourself, you could have some fun. But if you want to play multiplayer, you can't play it at a more casual rate. You just have to speed through, get to the point. It kind of takes away from what the game is, and it just becomes about being the best at it, if that makes any sense. You know, when I play RTSs, I like to build like a whole world, a whole civilization, and this and that, and be able to use any unit I want, and it doesn't really matter. So, you know, yeah, anything that just focuses way too much on you have to be multiplayer and you have to use the best, and otherwise you're not gonna have a good time, that'll turn me off.
Right on. I hear you on that. I think for me, the best thing for me that I look for, I got to rip off Jim's answer, and that's something that tries something truly different, that is super weird or super, like Katamari Damacy. When I saw that game for the first time, I'm like, okay, I got to do whatever I can to play this game because it looks freaking crazy as hell. It looks unlike any, and to this day, it's still unlike anything I've played before or since. Other than any other Katamari game since then. Yeah, just weird uniqueness, just weirdness, craziness. And that doesn't even have to be limited to traditional aspects of gaming. It can be something like NBA Jam. I'll never forget the first time I saw that in the arcade. And I saw Clyde Drexler like jump from the 3-point line with his shoes on fire, like just dunking on top of, I don't know, Christian Laettner or whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, this is a thing? How is this a thing? This is crazy. So anything unique or anything new, like something that's trying something truly different is something that's always going to get me. As far as stuff that's going to turn me away, it's always going to be shit that takes forever. I have a short attention span. So I'll never forget trying to play, or I forget who I was with, but they were playing Xenosaga. And the freaking cutscenes just would not end. And I was just like, what are we doing? Is this a game? Like, where's the game part? And I got so mad. And I ended up not seeing a second of gameplay in like 45 minutes. I was sitting there. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I don't understand like what this is. And not only that, but the dialogue wasn't that great. It wasn't that interesting. I didn't care. And that, you know, I'm sorry, but the Metal Gear Solid games, you're in the same boat. I just don't have time to hear this dialogue or just to sit there forever without playing anything. There needs to be a game there. I can't just sit there and just twiddle my thumbs while I'm watching your half-baked dialogue, okay? Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Metal Gear Solid.
You don't want to hear the equivalent of Kojima jerking off onto a keyboard for a script for like 40 hours?
I don't. I'd rather watch Kojima play Typing of the Dead.
So would
to
I.
see if he could.
Where's that Patreon?
Kickstarter.
Okay. Now, I'm with you, though, because what do you call it? Like, long games, I just don't have. Like, if I hear a game's like 50 hours to beat it, I'm just like, I guess I'm skipping this one.
Nope. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Okay, are we ready for the next question? It's a real serious one. Everybody ready? It's from Jim.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you sent this, Jim. I don't know.
I sabotaged us.
Where would a giraffe wear a tie? Up around its chin, or maybe down around the torso? Who wants to take it?
Down over the chest. Come on, that's basic anatomy right there.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm feeling like the collarbone area is. Yeah.
To be fair, though, it is called a necktie.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is. My answer is going to be the same. It's going to be around the torso because I'm just imagining a giraffe. The thing is, though, is if a giraffe wore a bow tie, it would look better if it were under its chin, though, right?
I was just about to say that. I thought I was going to be clever.
If a giraffe wears a bow tie, then it deserves to be eaten.
I think any giraffe, that has any fashion sense is going to get mauled by some lions. Yeah, I think that's without saying.
So just to be clear, our consensus is bow tie up around the chin, regular tie down around the collarbone.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll say that's fair.
Okay, we've heard it here,
Okay,
folks.
that sounds
That's
good
our
to me.
declaration here on the Drunk Friend podcast. It's very good.
Listen, this is law now. Okay, I don't want to hear any more questions, Jim, about giraffes. This is like the 14th question I've gotten about giraffes. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, well, I think that wraps up the interview portion of the episode. I want to thank you guys for coming on and not getting sloppy drunk like Alex usually does. This is great.
I mean, there's still time.
Yeah, I'm looking at my watch right now. We still got plenty of time. I don't know.
No, thanks a lot for having us on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Shout out
Man,
how
you guys are great.
Yeah, shout out how people can find you on YouTube. And you said you might have a Twitch thing kicking up or kicking around. So how can people find you? And maybe if you want, hint toward something that's coming out soon.
Chambers,
Right.
take it away.
All right. YouTube.com/DrinkABeerAndPlayAGameOfficial, or just search for Drink a Beer and Play a Game. We're buried under like 5 comms of SEO for Luke Bryan's song Drink a Beer, but you'll find us eventually. Then on Twitter, @ABeerAndAGame. We're on Instagram, Drink a Beer, Play a Game. We're on Facebook. Like we said, we have a Twitch, twitch.com or twitch.tv/DrinkABeerAndPlayAGame. And we have the Power Hour podcast, which is also on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Oh, and our website, drinkabeerandplaygame.com.
Yep. And as far as things coming up, as everyone knows, I'm a crazy, ridiculous horror fan. So pretty soon I'm gonna be shifting some focus and have some special horror reviews coming out on our site for specific horror games.
Oh, that's cool.
Very nice.
Yes, I'm also a huge horror fan, so I'll be definitely looking out for that. So that's good to know. Good to hear. All right, well, that's been another Drunk Friend podcast. As always, you can reach out to us with questions or comments at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com. We might even read those out here on the show. If you want to hear more podcasts from our crew, you can check out polykill.com and poke around.
And if you got nothing to say in an email, you should email us anyway because we haven't been getting very many emails lately.
It's true.
So, but you can still contribute. Sorry. You can still contribute to the podcast by rating and reviewing wherever you listen. It helps us out a lot, and it only takes a second.
That's right, and you can find us all on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNES Drunk. And once again, you can find the Drink a Beer and Play a Game dudes over at A Beer and A Game.
Thank you
And
guys
that
again.
music you
This was
heard-
excellent.
Sorry, we got more.
My bad.
That music you heard at the beginning right there and at the end right here was composed by our friend Coolor. The theme song is called Electric Starbounce, and you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page. And if our logo has you, Trav, thirsty, you could, and for a crisp, refreshing beverage is what you usually had here,
Oh, yeah.
but you removed it this time.
Oops.
Very clever. But you can thank Josh Leslie for our logo.
Yes, thank you, Josh. And be sure to catch us all on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers!
Cheers, guys.